Sure. My name is obviously Mike Aguilar, and the official title is Director of Esports and Co-Curricular Innovation at the University of Oklahoma. And I've been developing now in this energy since 2016, and now has formalized the institutional support, at least the start of it, as of September 1 of this year, just last month. And so I've been a gamer my entire life since the mid 80s, starting with the Atari 2600 and then evolving in time with everything since then. So slamming Nintendo cartridges in a console in the late 80s and the early 90s to the birth of online multiplayer with things like Battle.net and StarCraft in the late 90s and early 2000s, and the evolution of the birth of modern day esports as we see it today, and now tying it in with academic curriculum. And I will definitely say that this specific role, this career path that I've now found myself in, has called upon every single skill set I have. I also have undergrad in IT and a master's of business administration, as well as being a 6-year veteran in the Army, and have worked in public service as well as other industries that are in the technology focus too. Okay, so first and foremost, a lot of people automatically will default to it's just playing video games. And so the whole point of things like this is to help you educate that, yes, that's a core part of it, but there's more. And there's two words that get thrown around, and they do need some clear delineation. First of all, there's gaming, and then there's esports. They are kind of the same thing, but they're kind of different too. Gaming can best be summarized as playing a pickup game of basketball with your friends at a local court. Esports, however, is the NBA Finals. That's all that production, all of that team development, all of that marketing, business practicum, venue operations. And so there's the difference. At the end of the result, it's just people playing basketball, right? It's just in a different wrapper. And so gaming is the stuff where you're playing Mario Kart on the couch with your friends, and esports is competing for some kind of prize in a formalized state and at the highest tier, just like in conventional sports. So one of the easiest ways to draw parallels, and this isn't going to be relatable to everyone, but it's definitely relatable to a large pool, is if we break down traditional sports, entertainment, and athletics in general. Yeah, right. So then we can start talking about team building and the opportunities of soft skills development, compromise, give and take, strategy as a collective force. Now, in a lot of these games, not all, but a lot of the games, especially the flagship titles in esports, like an Overwatch, which is a 6-man roster, or League of Legends, which is a 5-man roster, or Rocket League, which is a 3-man roster, requires team synergy. It requires team development. It requires analytical play-by-play, looking back at footage, looking at what worked, what didn't work, doing research on the other team to build strategies against it. All of that translates. It's just people don't see that. They only see the end result of the game itself. But that's one avenue only. And when we talk about the topic and opportunity of esports overall. So playing the game is absolutely critical. It's the showcase piece. It's the thing that we consume at the end of the day. It's the thing as the entertainment side or as youth, they're predominantly focused on. Now, when we talk about esports industry overall, and then again, correlating it back to sports entertainment, at the end of the day, if we really break down sports entertainment, it's heavy journalistic and business practicum energies. So I'll reference Kobe Bryant, rest in peace. But if Kobe wasn't interviewed, if his games weren't featured, if they didn't do articles on his past, would we truly have known who Kobe Bryant was? No. It's not that he wouldn't be any less skillful or any less talented, but unless someone's telling that story and and presenting a narrative and producing the entertainment component for us to consume, then it just wouldn't be the same. We wouldn't have the NBA as it is today. So in esports, it's the same thing. You have to have those personas that are doing the play-by-play action, the color casting, the analytical review. You have to have those narratives that control the drama and make it entertaining, which then starts to feed in opportunities for sponsorships and tie-ins for other industry synergies. So in traditional sports, you have sports medicine. In esports, at the highest tier, you also have sports medicine. And yes, it may not look exactly the same. It may not be doing this ridiculous workout regimen in correlation to the specific topic. But blood circulation training and just kind of getting up and moving around is critical to making sure your mental acuity stays in tune as long as possible, aka endurance training. So these things have parallel opportunities that a lot of people don't think about when we're talking about the highest form and the highest tier of competition in video games. Now, we all can relate, especially if viewers are used to having or are in a situation where they're in an office job or are currently dealing with impacts because of current pandemic, where, if you're sitting down all day and definitely past that 2-hour, 15-minute break kind of interval, you definitely feel more lethargic versus getting up and moving throughout the day to prolong your energy and keep you at a pretty positive energy flow. Yeah. So before we transition, I do want to reference one piece of analytical knowledge that can be cited pretty much anywhere, but in the United States alone, after the NBA and after the NFL, League of Legends is the most watched sport in the U.S. So no, regardless of the platform. It's the third largest consumed organized entertainment sport. Whether it's esport or sport, it is the third most. That means it's higher than the MLB, it's higher than the NHL, it's higher than NASCAR, it's the third largest consumed throughout the year to year. And so that's important to note because now it's pushing past the $1 billion industry, and it should be on track to match the NFL in revenue as an industry collectively in less than 10 years from right now. Uh, and so the growth Right. So that the growth potential of this is it's no longer a coincidence. It's no longer something that's niche. It is very much mainstream. And for audience viewers that obviously have kids, you know very well that your youth are interested in playing games, especially things like a Fortnite or a Rocket League or a Madden or a 2K. And now there's opportunities for them to utilize this as a career path. So one, it's very surreal as somebody that's been a gamer my whole life, but we attended back in 2017 when we were spinning up all of our initial energies. We took our Overwatch team to compete in a tournament in Irving at one of the convention centers down there called OP Live, which was sponsored by an Overwatch League professional team franchise called the Dallas Fuel. And we competed against schools like the University of North Texas. We had schools from Colorado there. We had schools from Mississippi, all over Texas, of course. And we ended up getting to the grand finals. And the energy in it, the first thing, this was like just 6 months kind of past when we first started to sit down and say, let's come together and start seeing what we can do with this, was just insane. Like the noise of the audience and the energy on the stage with all the lights and really kind of letting them let it sink in that now this is the world that they haven't before them, where they are able to wear that university logo on their chest and be representative of something that has quite a strong brand power in the region. And then not only doing that, but coming out of the gates with only like about 3 to 4 weeks of coming together as that specific team. And then also pretty much winning almost all of Texas on its first go round. And so the cheers, the crowd, the energy, and then also the drama and the emotion was insane. So we ended up obviously losing that grand final, and the faces, like it's hard. But if you've ever been a parent of a kid in sports or in sports yourself, and you get to that point and you work together, you came together and you are defeated or you are successful in your accomplishment at the end of that season, you know exactly what that energy is because it's the exact same one. It is what more could we do? What more could we do? That pipeline looks like and what's developing. And so I can obviously only speak to the University of Oklahoma's developments being in charge of that area. But naturally on this journey in 4 years, we have peers across the globe and that we develop our network. And so at this time right now, October 1, 2020, there are universities that do offer up to full ride scholarships for competition in esports, whether it's Overwatch League, Rocket League, they do exist already. We also have universities across the US and across the globe that do offer scholarships for curriculum, meaning that if you wanted to go down the path of journalism or curriculum or communications and things like that, they already exist. And so by the time that specific target audience of OKCPAL is in that age to start deciding what they want to do post high school, then the opportunity should only be more comprehensive and more robust. But if we're already there in 2020, then the audience that should be watching this or that is watching this in the next 4 to 5 years, when it becomes a viable concern to look for your future, you will have a plethora of energies, both in and outside of Oklahoma, as well as in and outside of the United States. So that's also another kind of testament to this. And I do want to take a moment and talk about, well, what are the actual curriculum opportunities and what does that actually look like overall? So I already referenced the fact that there's a heavy journalistic practicum opportunity in esports in general. Broadcast journalism, ESPN covers esports now. TBS covers esports with their brand franchise at E-League. And so that means that those are jobs. Those are legitimate jobs. And not only the persona that's telling you the play-by-play, like a Shaquille O'Neal or like a John Madden or Charles Barkley, those jobs exist for this specific topic. And then we still have the analysts that are behind them that are feeding them those numbers and the performance analytics and all those things to control that narrative and tell the story of the drama that's unfolding in front of you. In China specifically, granted I know that's not here, far departure from that, but esports is a global sport. So League of Legends specifically, again, the third most watched organized sport in that regard, in the US, is able to sell out the nest in Beijing, which the Olympics couldn't even do. And so now we're talking about viewership that's higher than the Super Bowl, which is a staple in the US. So that means that all these communities are spiraling up, whether they're collegiate or not, general grassroots, general communities like a YMCA, or all the way down to K through 6, and then 7 through 12, collegiate, and then obviously pro sector. There's now more and more opportunities growing day by day. And this world will look very, very different in especially about 3 years from now. Because as the bigger schools are now starting to get involved, like OU, and start to bring the resources to the plate, then that also means that the opportunities will grow exponentially as well. And I do want to talk about some of those specifically. So aside from the journalistic one, then we start talking about business. Business in general, international business is a huge one. Sports medicine, I mentioned, sports team management. Where do you find coaches for Rocket League? Where do you find coaches for Overwatch? They're just have a chance at it right now. But if we can formalize that pipeline, then we can feed pro sector, then we can feed collegiate coaches, then we can feed high school coaches and community developments like your own. So those are all other opportunities. My favorite one, which is what brought us together, is actually social work. And social work is a unique one to me, and it's one of my favorite opportunities that I dreamed up and thought about way back in 2017, because prior to working for OU, I worked for Oklahoma County. And in Oklahoma County, I worked at the juvenile facility specifically. And that position, not to dog on it, but that position gave me shingles at 27 years of age. And it's because when you see what a public servant has to work with and what they're trying to do, and just how much energy is kind of sucked out of them, it takes a very special person to be a public servant, to say the least. But to arm them with other opportunities to impact youth in a positive way, just like we see athletics programs, this can do the same. Now, pre or post COVID, irrelevant, these things were still important and developing regardless of the pandemic impacts globally. And it's only accelerated the importance of creating this, because the biggest thing about esports as an opportunistic approach is that there are no barriers of entry for gender. There are no barriers of entry for heritage. There are no barriers of entry, right? Socioeconomic status. It doesn't matter if you're 7 foot tall or if you're in a wheelchair. Everyone can have a place in this topic very easily. And regardless if if you want to be the caster, or you want to be the production person, or the journalist, or the competitor, the playing field is level. And so this is a huge equalizer. Imagine a topic like the Special Olympics with something like this. And those are opportunities, as well as impact of other engagement energies, to see, to create some avenues for people to now have other options to improve their disposition and work towards something that they're passionate about, and not just be dismissive of it. Right. We actually partnered with Make-A-Wish Oklahoma, specifically our branch, and we did a League of Legends tournament back in July just to test it, and we raised $2,000 over a weekend for youth in need right in our backyard. So those opportunities, it's not as wonderful as that. Obviously, I'm definitely highlighting something that took some development to get into it. But once you put some structure behind anything, then it can have the opportunity of success. And to close out the topic of the pipeline for youth, well, the other biggest one, and probably one of the biggest opportunities outside of the competition avenue, is something along the lines of creative media production. Everything that we see is consumption. Everything that we see is media rich. Whether it's a TikTok dance, there's still creative media production happening. There's still video. There's still understanding timing. There's still understanding using music for emotional draw. And those are all synergies that you find inside of a creative media production or a video production type course. And so one of the other benefits that we'll be looking at as another means to also establish more options, not just at OU, but to help raise the community collectively, is starting to look at the vocational schools. And because a lot of our vocational schools here in Oklahoma have amazing CMP programs. So whether or not college is in your books or is in your future, or you think that it's a good fit in high school programs, then you can take advantage of those things as juniors and seniors in high school. And whether you choose to go to that next stage and go and pursue your higher educational career, or just go straight into the field, you can be very, very marketable right out of the box post high school. And I want to emphasize that, because I'm definitely here, obviously, as an advocate for OU and what we're developing. But at the end of the day, before I was at OU, before I was at Oklahoma County, before I served in the military, I was a little kid as a gamer saying that, man, I wish I could do something with this, because I'm really passionate about it and I connect with people and I get it. And it helps me be less introverted, less socially awkward, less less just weird in what the conventional society says. It gives me a home. It gives me that social need, and that we all seek. That regardless of how introverted you are. Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
But
No,
I
that
know
social.
that social inclusion aspect. I mean, that I know how powerful that is and how impactful that it can be to one, be seen and to feel a part of something bigger than yourself. I know, and we see that in our work that we do every day. I know how important that is.
And to drive that point home, especially dealing with my topic today, we obviously see a lot of those that are not activated in the knowledge of this stuff, especially the older generations that are looking back and saying, well, why are we watching people just play video games on something like Twitch, and not really kind of understanding. And I want to paint that picture to help kind of break that ice and help you hopefully at least be able to see just a little bit of connection of how it can correlate to something that we all know. So when I was first spinning up research and really trying to put proper terminology on paper versus just gamer speak as a means to explain things, I'm a photographer of 18 years or 19 years now, and I've shot everything along the way. And cosplay has been a very favorite one. So cosplay being just the artistry of creating costumes and personifying characters in fantasy or game or anything, bring them to life. So if you want to see Daenerys at a conference, that's cosplay. Or the entire cast of Ghostbusters in costume with the proton packs, that's cosplay. So I was watching this specific cosplay photographer who was only 23 years old.
Oh.
Brain, I was already 34 at the time, and I was just like, man, if I could make a living doing that, I would totally do that. That's so amazing to me. So I wanted to know her journey, her process, and the connections she's made, and some of her experiences. Well, I didn't come back to that stream for almost 3 to 4 weeks, and when I came back, she remembered my name, and her community remembered what we talked about.
Wow.
And that is modern day Cheers. That is modern day. I can walk in, and I don't have to
where
explain
everybody knows your name.
Yeah. And so that drawing that parallel makes it easier to at least understand why younger generations will invest in a content creator that way, because it's giving them something that they can relate to. And at the end of the day, it's the same business model as you subscribing to an HBO or a Showtime or any other content provider, whether it's Netflix, Hulu, and so forth, because you want to consume that content because it's what you're interested in. And that's no different than investing in a singular content creator to provide you a show that you will regularly want to be a part of that aligns with your sensibilities at that time. It is the exact same business model. And when you start to break down some of the ice in regards to the thought processes and the strategies between those two worlds, you'll find that they're actually the exact same business.
Yeah.
And it's hilarious because it's a return to live television, which is also just not who we are anymore. We're used to saying, dang it, Netflix, give me the whole season right now, or Hulu. And the younger generation is like, whoa, I'm good with waiting for my streamer or my persona that I follow to produce content every other day or every week. And they invest in it.
I think it's interesting you brought that up, because being an influencer and all of that sort of thing is definitely a prominent part. Not so much even my age, and I'm fairly young, so you look at some of my younger family members or cousins, and they certainly follow particular people on particular streaming device or streaming platforms, and it's just interesting. Like, there's so much opportunity, and I just think that we'd be really remiss to not expand our minds and to be open-minded to exploring the many possibilities. And I love how you touched on how it can be international, how it can be as simple as just feeling a part of a community. Like, there's so many small scale and large scale ways that this can be really life-changing. So I'm pretty excited for you to be on here and to share that message with our people. And I know earlier my mic was muted, and I'd like to just quickly we have these 3 really special Rocket League players that I did mention one before, but I'm going to call them all out now, and I'm sorry to embarrass you. Sorry, not sorry. But we've got Lucas, Hero, and Josh, who very consistently show up to play and have really helped us create this Rocket League community. And we're certainly on a path to, I don't know what that says. We are certainly on a path to basically connect and partner with high school programs and such as and also college programs and your your club programs really, and we're looking at ways that we can partner, with OU and high schools and bring mentorship. Man, that's what our program is
Right.
predominantly about, is being able to have a person who kind of looks like you, who kind of thinks like you, who's older than you, that you look up to, saying like, hey, let's play this game together. Let's talk a little bit about life too. Like, how are you feeling during COVID? And we certainly have taken advantage of that through using Discord. And again, I'm such a noob, really. Like, I don't know all the things, but it's been really cool to have those kids involved. And if you're a 5th and 6th grader in OKCPS and interested in participating in our league, please sign up. There are some big things on the horizon for this program, and can't wait to explore what's going to happen with you, Mike, and your program, and where we can grow from here. So just really thankful for everybody, man. I just had a moment there. I'm sorry I had to come off my soapbox.
It's great. I do again, to kind of to drive this point home, especially for the youth that are watching and the parents. The end message that you should take away from this is everything in balance. If you train hard as an athlete, and you will burn yourself out, you will injure yourself. You have to take rests. This is no different. It just doesn't look the same, but it's the same mentality. It's the same strategy. You want to be good at something, you have to work at it. But that means you have to balance yourself out. That means eating right, having a focus on wellness, practice as well. Be intentional with your practice. 5 hours straight, if you're training to be a competitor, is actually counterproductive. An hour on, take a small break. Another hour on, take a small break. Maybe 2, and then take a break. Go walk the dog, go outside and just kick the ball around or something. You will find that you're actually retaining your skills when you first started the day fresh, much longer throughout the day, and actually wiring your muscle memory much better. So it's as simple as that. And these are things that are not new in the context of development and training for anything that you should work for that takes effort. The other thing that I want to emphasize is that while, again, I can only speak for OU and its developments, in the state of Oklahoma, there's now almost 10 universities that are now institutionally supporting development in some context, whether it's curricular or competitive or community. They already exist. And so as you're drawing closer to those high school years, then, depending on the opportunities that we have available to us within the state, just know that we also have opportunities elsewhere. And so that's significant because it's no longer about, and I would definitely want to portray about this. In the collegiate scene, I always set the tone for, it's not about having esports, it's about what we're doing with it. Because if we're just sitting here emphasizing playing the game, then we're feeding right into the stereotype of just the lowest common denominator thought of the potential of this now plus $1 billion industry growing. And that industry is growing at an exponential rate. It's like 25 to 35% year over year growth every year for the last 5 years. And that's why it's on track for matching the NFL or superseding the NFL in less than 10. And so the opportunities, again, will only continue to grow. But this is where, picking the brains, obviously I'm one resource in our backyard. But these are the ones where I'll say, hey, you know what? Yes, I'm gonna spill the beans for what OU is doing to you because I want you to come here. However, OU may not be your best fit, and that's fine. But if you're passionate about this right now, especially any entry into the esports sector as a student, as somebody who's passionate about this, elevates the entire scene right now because it's not a mainstream topic.
Right.
The day that calls like this and interviews like this to a general audience are no longer about defining what esports is and more about what we're doing with it is the day that it's finally mainstream. And so I still have probably 2 to 4 or 5 years ahead of me of having an introductory to a conference, saying, what is this? And until that day happens, then we can't say that only this place has that or that place has this. We all have to come together and elevate each other equally, because at the end of the day, yes, I'm going to have to be competitive with other universities naturally, but I'm also going to have to be collaborative with them, and I'm going to also have to be. It's important for me to take care of our backyard and our front yard in that way.